I say this a lot that this show takes me all over the world, and sometimes it gets real close to home. Sometimes it's like 20 minutes. Other times it's a lot of the roots take you back to the same place. And I've been very fortunate. I don't know how it's happened lately, but you see the emblem on the hat, the outline for the state. I've been able to talk to a lot of folks from Kentucky, and I'm excited to welcome in another guest who has Kentucky roots. She's a country singer songwriter. Her new album, All Dressed Up, arrives March 20th. So by the time this episode drops, you'll be able to check it out. Let's welcome in Leah Blevins.
Hello, Jonathan. Thank you so much for the intro and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to chat about all things, especially Kentucky. I know you're not a big drinker and don't really, in terms of what I normally drink, which is kind of Kentucky's native spirit. So I know you're behaving yourself in life. So what's your go-to? This is Bar Conversations. What's your go-to bar? Is it the coffee bar, tea bar? What's your guilty pleasure drink you enjoy having?
The bar in my kitchen, the where I make food and serve it, is where I'm mostly at these days. But I definitely had my fair share of bourbon and whiskey and back in the day. So I appreciate the craft.
I love that. I love that. And like I said, there's many different bars out there. You never know which one you might go to. And because you're from Kentucky, I'm gonna at least show off the little Kentucky Senator bourbon. Got to play homage to your home state. And I did see a different type of bar that you were enjoying though on social media. I did a little deep dive. I saw it was a chocolate record that you got to enjoy. So how was that?
I said it in the video. I do not have any preference in chocolate. I'm not going to say no, so it was quite delicious.
I like it now. Now, are you a sweets person by chance, or what's got to have a snack, or where do you fall on that?
I always, this is what I say about that. I feel like I have sweet teeth, not just a sweet tooth. So to answer your question, yes, for sure.
All the above.
Yeah, all sweets. Got to watch myself.
Well, we all do, and I loved reading up about you because it was cool to see your history and how much you just love music and what you're getting to do now. Is it true that at age 7 you were breaking out the video camera? For folks that don't realize, we grew up in a time where there were things called video cameras and you couldn't record everything on this. So, I mean, is it true you were breaking out the video camera and putting on a performance of Martina McBride's A Broken Wing? Is that how
That
things got
is that
started?
is pure facts right there. With a hairbrush in hand, one t-shirt on, and just jumping around acting a fool, and then passing off the hairbrush to my twin and my older sister, and yeah, it was a family affair.
I mean, so did you grow up then and just surrounded by music? I mean, I'm guessing it sounds like you grew up in a true musical family then.
Yeah, well, my mom's side of the family are all very much gospel singers, and they had a group back in the day. So it was very much instilled in us to follow that path. And where we're all from, the Appalachia, that's just what you do. You're surrounded by it, and a lot of us start out in church, and that was a huge influence in terms of how it all began. But my dad is such a music lover as well, and it was total opposite end of the spectrum. So it was very vast, but it's made me who I am. That's for sure.
Well, and then I was reading up, and I know your husband's a musician. Your sister, your twin sister's in a group with her husband, I think.
Hmm.
Was there ever a chance that music wasn't going to be something you at least had in your life and were doing something with it?
I want to say definitely no. There was a time when I entertained the idea because I was in ROTC. I remember vividly, speaking of like back in the day when there were VHS tapes and there was a two-part for Pearl Harbor, and I wanted to be a pilot so badly, and but I always knew that music would be at the forefront, and I didn't know what that looked like per se, but I always knew I'd play music for sure.
Now, did you grow up? Was it just singing, or were you playing instruments? I mean, I feel like in that house there had to be just a few things laying around at all times that you could grab and play.
Well, that's where, my mom played piano and she's still a piano teacher back in Sandy Hook. And then I didn't start playing guitar till I was like 16 years old, like really serious about it. But definitely always grew up singing background vocals. My sisters and I, we had a three-part harmony, and that was really our bread and butter. But yeah, it was very much a part of everything. And Dad, he'd always bring home these random instruments from who knows where, just trying to get us to keep the band going. So something was lying around. To your point.
Well, and you mentioned, Sandy Hook. That's where you grew up, and for folks that don't know, there's a pretty decent name country artist that's from there, and Keith Whitley, and it's in Eastern Kentucky. What impacted growing up there? Like you said, music seems to flow through there, and also just it's Eastern Kentucky. It's a community that I feel like rallies around one another. I mean, what was it like growing up there, both personally, musically, and all the above?
Well, specifically, Keith put Sandy Hook on the map, and I was very close with his nieces growing up, and so yeah, I always say it was injected in our bones and our veins, all of the above. So in the best way. I mean, he's legendary. What a sweet soul, and the stories that are told. But yeah, it was more or less like you'd either pick a sport, you'd play an instrument, or you'd do whatever the alternative was that probably wasn't so good. So I think I partook in all three at some point, but it was just camaraderie, and everybody, wanted to start a band. Everybody wanted to be playing together and seeking that out for sure.
Well, and I love too because as I've gotten to do this now for a few a few years, it's wild to think how long I've been doing it and been able to get to talk to folks. The amount of people that come out of nowadays Kentucky or Eastern Kentucky and are doing some amazing things. What's it like to have now down in Nashville? I feel like you guys have a group down there of Kentuckians. Britt Taylor and all those that have come through there. I mean, I feel like you guys are getting quite a collection down there.
We are. There's Adam, her husband. He went to the same college that I went to, Morehead State. And then, you've got Cindy Best, who really paved the way for all of us. They were some of the first guys that took me out on the road. I'm blanking on everybody else, but to echo your point, we always find each other. You got Abby Hamilton, and I think she's in and out of town quite a bit. But I was doing an interview the other day with Sarah Cahill, who is just she does it all. But we were just saying, we can like lock eyes and know if you're from Kentucky. It's kind of we just gravitate towards each other.
Well, and like you said, I feel like there's you know, in Appalachia, there's a music, and like you said, Sunday Best, Nicholas Jamerson, his sister, so many others that are now just cutting through. And what's it like to see, that kind of music come through? Because as we get talking later, I feel like a few of your songs lean into that a little bit more. You lean into that a little bit more now than you did at one point. I mean, what's it like to see all of that kind of shine now too, in a good way?
Oh, it's the best. And I think there's this common thread amongst all of us that there's just honesty behind the lyrics and the intention and how genuine we all are as people in general too. So I think with all of that, it's definitely a force.
Well, and you talked about, you grew up in the church and you grew up around kind of a wild collection of music and it was all around you. What music did you grow up on? What artists made an impact on you from an early age to even now?
Oh my goodness. Well, there was this festival, if you will, in Ashland, Kentucky, where the Judds are from. So the Judds, I remember early on seeing them and Ricky Skaggs at the Paramount Arts Center. And my dad, he would always take us to see these brilliant shows, and he loved Elvis, so that was always on loop. And Jerry Lee Lewis, Bread, the Eagles, the Beatles, and then my mom, she was quite a bit younger than him, so she was very much into top 40 radio, country radio. So that was always in the car. But I remember specifically, she had a black Bonneville, and there were just two cassettes on loop, and it was the Bee Gees and the Dixie Chicks. And I would just stare out the window because I was super bashful then. I barely talked, and I would just try to mimic the sound. But those are fond memories in terms of like influential music. But also to add to that, I have a sister who's 7 years older than Lacey and myself, and she was into the rock scene of the 90s and just, Alanis and Jewel and Sheryl Crow. And Just so many vastly different people, but all brilliant in their own right.
I love that because you really did grow up around everything, and also I feel like this is true too. That did at any point did you guys try to start a rock band? Because I feel like almost anyone that came out of that era at least tried at one point.
I mean, I had my moments where I was really into Evanescence and Seether, and that was just that time, like, but it was always a cover band of country, 90s country music for sure. We had a group called 7 Feet Under, my sisters and I.
Ooh, I
Quite a
like
name.
it. I like
Yeah.
it. I like it. Well, and I read too that you described hearing Stevie Nicks at like age 11 as kind of a powerful full moment. What was it about that kind of hit and stuck with you?
The lyricism and just how there was this folk 12 string on that specific record, and I had just never really heard that, per se. And I think just the fact that I was taking my older sister's CD, which made it even more in, like the adrenaline behind that. So it was just something that really stuck with me.
And then as you got to pick, who you were putting on play. I mean, were there any's that you as you got older kind of gravitated toward and got to listen to the CDs on repeat or burn the cassette to the ground?
I'm gonna be real here. I loved Ryan Adams. Again, back to the songwriting aspect of things, and I feel like I still listen to the same artists that I listed earlier, and that again is all over the place. But I definitely feel like there's an element to those primitive years of life that just kind of shape your taste in terms of what you want to listen to. But yeah, I think I'd stick with the ones that I constantly have on Spotify, and that's those artists that I mentioned.
I was gonna say it's a pretty good collection, and you mentioned your older sister. You and your twin sister actually moved in with her at one point and spent a good bit of time there. I mean, what was it like then? Because I'm guessing you had maybe a little more independence than the normal middle schooler and high schooler at the time.
To put it lightly, yeah. It was just raised by a pack of wolves and just trying to get by. And, it's a weird dynamic and hard to explain. But yeah, my sister was dating my brother-in-law, and they've been together since they were 15 or 16 years old. So it was the core four, and we had a good time. And sometimes we're, obviously better than others. But I think I'll say this much, we all turned out way better than we should have.
Well, it sounds like something was going right, but I'm guessing, like you mentioned, those songs that you grew up on were core memories and kind of stuck with you. I'm guessing that time of kind of independence and probably self discovery was probably influential to who you are now and kind of those the songs you write about and things like that.
Definitely. And I think more or less just like being a very internal person at that age and being more observant and listening. And I was way more free, obviously, at that time that I was fearless in every move that I made. And I would, take the car out in the middle of the night and drive around Sandy Hook. And I think that, again, what I was saying earlier, those years, they obviously mold you into who you are, and my career is driving a car around and playing music, so it all served its purpose for sure.
Well, and I read too, you talk about how impactful your family has been and how, close you are with them. Your grandfather, Benny Harold, I believe, taught you
Aw.
that you are, quote, worthy of love and that there are other fish in the pond. How did that kind of influence help you as you went to Nashville and how's that stuck with you?
Oh my gosh, these are great questions, by the way, and you've done your research. But my papa also told my sisters and I that we were the prettiest girls in the world, and we got a rude awakening real fast when we stepped out of the walls of Sandy Hook. But no, I'm teasing. But that man is the most genuine person I've ever met, and he's the most pure hearted. So I felt like anything and everything he ever taught me, I took it to heart, and it made me learn to not settle for just anything or anybody, and which in turn, again, it made for good company as far as my husband goes.
Well, there you go. And I'm guessing too, it didn't hurt with once you get down to Nashville, because as I've talked to folks, and obviously everyone wants to get there if they're in country music for the most part, but it's you see all the good things on social media and you hear all the good things, but it's not always as simple as that, and it's hard at times, and or most of the time. And I mean, how did I'm guessing those words though have helped you get through those parts as your journey has continued on.
Definitely. And I think that anybody that steps foot in Nashville, you recognize early on that, you can't have an ego because everybody, everywhere you look, everybody's so talented. And, but I think the real thing my takeaway from all of it is just to treat people the way you want to be treated and, actually adhere to what they're doing and show up and, show appreciation for it. At least that's what I did when I moved here. I went to shows, I shook hands, I stuck around to the end of the show and just took in things.
I was gonna say the best way to learn is from those that sometimes are doing it and going through it. And I'm curious too, because like we've said, you grew up in a religious family. Church was a big thing. When you decided to leave Kentucky and you started playing in honky tonks, what was the reaction like from everyone when you were going and doing all of that?
Well, the reaction is similar to it is today, the current date. It's they want us to be singing in church and make a gospel record and be the next Isaacs. But you know, I can't shame that. For my mom says that a lot. She's like, "You're gonna make it big if you step into the gospel scene." I'm like, I'm not saying no to that either. I'd love to make a gospel record, and I feel like that'll happen eventually.
I love that. Well, and it's true too because I feel like you said, so many folks got their start in church, or at least owe a
Mm.
lot of their musical journey to that point. And when you did get down to Nashville, I know too that you had a moment where you kind of took a step back, kind of were just writing and working, I think, as a cook or something like that. Did that kind of help you kind of figure out where you wanted to go and what you wanted to be, after you got down there after a while?
I think that that was at a time where I just was so confused, and my granny had passed away at that time, and I just felt like I had spent um, so many years away from my family that I felt as though they needed me. And I was just again waking up at 3:45 and going in and making a meal for East Nashville, and I was just like, this is not what I want out of life. And sure enough, in that breath, I got a call to play and open shows for Paul Cawthon, and he it was a pivotal moment, and I got to make a record with him and Bo. And so to that point of just like wanting a reset in life, every time we all think that we need to throw in the towel, something finds its way right in to grab the towel before you toss it or it leaves your hand.
It is amazing how those moments in life happen, especially when you get to the chance to actually look back on them. And I know too, because I think talking about Paul, amazing guy. I got to talk to him just a little bit ago, and have him on the show, and to read what some of the things he passed along to you was pretty cool because um, I know at one point you admitted to kind of manipulating your voice to maybe sound more poppy or whatever. Like you said, it is not easy to feel comfortable as oneself in Nashville and stuff with so many people telling you so many different things. What was it like once you kind of leaned into your roots and were just kind of true to your voice? Because as I've talked to folks, it's amazing how many of them said it took me a while to find my voice, how I wanted things to go, but boy, when I did, the light bulb just went off.
Yeah, I think just being just being in my 20s, or anybody in their 20s, you don't know who you are. And I don't think that the search is to always continue to elevate. And well, one would hope, but I think as long as my voice has, because I was always a background vocalist, so I never really got to adhere to how I sounded. So I was pulling from all directions trying to figure that out. But I think I'm still trying to learn my strengths with my vocals. And but I feel as though with Paul, he he allowed me to understand that I should lean in towards the idea of my dialect and how I sound rather than try to mask that. So I think that was a dance that I'm still showing up to. But I would say that more so than anything, just embracing how I sound instead of trying to seek out another sound.
Well, I read where he gave you, I guess, what at the time was maybe an unexpected note to focus on pronouncing your words, and I think you
Hmm.
said that was a beautiful experience for you.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that, but he did, and he gave me a lot of pointers, and I had never really been in the studio to that level and that degree, and so I learned a lot in that process. Him and Bo have their a beautiful dynamic, and I was just grateful to be a part of that process.
Well, and you're getting to go through a whole different process now, or at least you did, as All Dressed Up gets to come out. You worked with, I believe, Dan Auerbach. What was it like working with him to bring this album to life and let loose All Dressed Up for everyone to hear?
Man, I mean, again, it's like when you surround yourself with people who have more wisdom, who have been doing it longer, and the intimidational factor is there. But I feel as though that's something that only is going to level you up, and it did me for sure. In both experiences of being in the studio with First Time Feeling and now All Dressed Up, I've just continued to be able to be surrounded by folks who are, elite, and that's all you can really ask for, especially in that setting. So it's unlocking a lot of things, a lot of chambers in my brain. I'll say that much.
Well, I mean, how does All Dressed Up differ from the first album? You also put out a few EPs along the way. I mean, how does this one kind of set you up? Kind of maybe for your next chapter or however you want to look at it.
Yeah, I think that it's just where I'm at in life and my age. That was almost 5 years ago, and I'm a lot more sure of myself and my craft at this age, and that obviously changes things. I feel as though I've just had a 36th birthday, so I definitely feel like I'm comfortable in my skin at this age, which is obviously going to change how things sound and how things come about. But I would say that for the most part.
Well, and some of those early songs that you put out that folks got to hear, like I said, by the time this drops, the album will be out. While we're talking, it's not out, so they've only got to see a few bits and pieces, and one of those was "Lonely," which I think captures a maybe a cinematic stillness. Was it difficult to kind of translate maybe a quote unquote quiet devastation of personal loss into that sound that you were able to make?
That is not hard for me whatsoever. And I think that I appreciate you saying that really, because there is this desperation in the way that I sing and write. And I think that's just something that I'm unapologetic about is my emotions and how sensitive I am. And I used to think that was something that I would shy away from, but I really feel as though that those are my superpowers. And I think that's what we're all really seeking at this point in life is honesty within the walls of how we're all feeling. At least I am in that regard.
Well, and one of my favorite songs, possibly my favorite song off the record, is "Digging in the Coal," which I know if anyone knows Eastern Kentucky, Appalachia, a lot of coal history there. You've got the family history, I'm sure, as well. How important is it for you to find light and dark places, and maybe shine that light on those Kentucky roots?
I'll do that till the day I die. I love the idea of putting a spotlight on the places that I care about. And my granny was from West Virginia, and my great grandfather was a coal miner. So I always was fascinated by the thought that coal miners back in the day would send a canary, a yellow canary, into the coal mine to see, and if it came back out, then they knew that there were no toxins, and they were able to go into the mine. So I just love that approach in terms of making it a song, whether it be a relationship or whether you're seeking the Lord or it's about the Appalachia coal miners. So I'll leave that up to the listener. But that was kind of that nod to that approach to the song.
Well, and I just loved it too because it has, to me, and some of the other songs too, just this throwback. Like you almost are taken back to like the '70s, '80s of some of the women powerhouse vocalists from that era. And I mean, how cool is it to kind of just be able to just do your thing, and it just sounds, like maybe like to me at least, like I've been transported somewhere else.
Wow, I really appreciate that. And I think that was Dan's approach as well going into this. He wanted to really allow my vocal to be at the forefront of the song, which I appreciate because I haven't really done that. Every record or every song I've done, it's kind of been tucked away for the most part. So this is me again, kind of getting back to the basics and realizing that I have nothing to prove, and I think that's something that comes with age as well. And it's just, it's instead of running from who you actually are, just giving it a big old hug and embracing it. I feel like that's what this record's going to be for folks too.
Well, like I said, it's a fantastic album, and is there a song that you're most excited for people to hear? Because I know everyone will say it's like kids. I don't have technically a favorite, but we all know you kind of do. So, is there a song that you're just most excited for people to hear and to get to share?
Well, out of the ones that we've put out in terms of singles, "Lonely" is by far my favorite. But there's the ones that haven't yet seen the light of day. There's one called "Leave It Up to Me" and another that's called "Leave Your Baggage at the Door." Those are going to be higher energy. So I enjoy playing those.
I love that, and you talk about kind of putting some of your personal life into the songs or just things that you've grown up around. I mean, what is your approach to songwriting and creating, and what is it like to kind of be maybe more vulnerable than some folks are used to?
I feel like it's different every time, and it depends on who you're in the room with. And sometimes you got to let whoever's leading, the pack, let them lead the pack. And probably a better way of saying that, but I just think that I typically, I kind of lean into the idea of like a hook or just something. I feel like the first line of the song, I want it to just like really hit my heartstrings or pull at them. So I think those are two things that really come to mind. But again, it depends on the day and what mood I'm in and who's in the room with me.
Well, and you talk about being able to play those songs. I know you got some cool shows set for this year. Did you ever think one day, as you're looking down your calendar, you'd be at the Opry, and then later on you'd be at the United Kingdom playing shows over there and things like that?
I always hoped, but you have that doubt, little voice in your head that's like, you're never going to get that. But I feel like I've written it down so much that the manifestation factor in all of it has finally come to the surface, and it's the best feeling ever. I never thought little old Kentucky, Eastern Elliott County would make her way to those places and those stages, but I'm eternally grateful for the opportunities.
Well, and being able to kind of go out and do those things. I mean, one, it's got to be amazing, but two, obviously that checks off maybe a bucket list item, or at least maybe the idea board or the whatever you want to call it. I mean, where else are you still hoping to get to, and maybe are hopeful for down the road?
Oh my gosh. Well, the ramen for obvious reasons, and Rupp Arena for secondary obvious reason. I feel like Red Rocks is a dream, and to think larger than that, Madison Square Garden, and just my goal in all of this is to be authentic and honest, and wherever that leads me, so be it. But yeah, those are high hopes for sure.
I love that, and for as we talk, it's one thing to make the song and create the song and put it out there. It's another to bring it to life on stage, and I think there's a whole world that um, just songs change when they're live. What's the best part about being on stage for you and bringing those songs to life and letting people enjoy them in a whole new way?
I always felt like as in my youth, I was wearing a mask, and then I'd get on stage and I felt like I had a cape on. And I feel like nowadays I've got a cape on in life and on stage. So I think that's really just the glory in all of it, being able to like be free and separate, compartmentalize like everything for 60 to 90 minutes or less. But I think that's really it, just being able to feel free from all the noise for a minute.
I was gonna say there's something special about being on stage, and I love asking this question. You know, at the beginning, I asked the go-to drink or your bar that is home to you. I love getting toward the end to ask this one, and it's what is your favorite song of yours to perform live right now?
Right now, my favorite song to perform. I would say Tequila Mockingbird. It's fun to sing harmonies on that. So we'll do a little full circle moment in terms of that. And when I do feel like I want to have a drink, I'll have a little bit of tequila. A Paloma is probably my drink of choice. But yeah, I would say Tequila Mockingbird.
I love that. So you never know what someone's gonna say, and that's why I love asking that. And you know, obviously, by the time this drops, All Dressed Up will be out and for everyone to listen to and enjoy. I know you've got a few shows that you've been able to talk about so far. What else can folks expect from you this year? I'm guessing you're wanting to get the album out there a little bit more and share it with folks. So what else is on the horizon?
There's a bunch of surprises, and hopefully the calendar continues to fill up. But you know how it is. You can't say anything until you're permitted
I almost
the
forgot that
the
you can
green
tell me
light.
without getting yourself in trouble. That you can tell me without getting yourself in trouble.
Oh man, hopefully just playing more shows and collaborating and seeing more of the planet in that vein of things.
Well, I'm excited to see what you have coming up, Leah, because like I said, All Dressed Up is a fantastic album, folks.
Thank you.
Go give it a listen. You won't be disappointed. It's got a lot on it, and it'll take you on a fun journey. And Leah, thanks for sharing your story with me, and your journey. And cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much for having me, Jonathan. I really do appreciate it. Great questions, and you did your research, so that's always nice.
I try. I try.
Don't we all?